what's happening in Washington, D.C. We've obviously, is that the first sitting U.S. president to mention Bitcoin, at least publicly, as well as a considerable amount of congressional hearings going on with regard to Libra. Now, there's a Forbes article that sort of gave not a positive yet not a negative overview of what this regulatory battle might mean, but it seems like we're setting the stage for a bit of a showdown here, and I think Facebook might end up being carrying the bulk of the load here in pushing some regulations forward that both the cryptocurrency space and even the social media and privacy space sort of need or have been wanting for a bit. I'd like to open the floor and maybe get your thoughts on, is this going to be a showdown, and is this going to be short-term rocky for us here as a fund or crypto in general? I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts.
Sean, are you asking specifically about Libra and the hearings on Libra?
Well, I think that the hearings on Libra also are going to coincide a bit to the greater cryptocurrency space, unless you disagree.
No, I don't, and I have an opinion that we've seen the extent of the Washington headlines for the rest of the summer, because doesn't Congress's 6-week vacation start?
Yeah,
today?
I mean, everyone's going to go home for August, so there's a good possibility it might be all quiet on the DC front for a bit until September when Congress reconvenes.
I think that that's likely to be what happens. I know they referred the issue to committee, and there was like the G7 meeting on it this week, but those are closed doors meetings. At least I didn't hear any headlines from it, so I assumed it was. I think that we're going to be a 6-week quiet period as everyone's on the beach and talking to their constituents about how they feel about crypto.
Let's talk about how that might affect the cryptocurrency market. Are we going to stay sideways here for the remainder of August? Does anyone have a strong opinion on that?
I don't know. I think we go higher. And the reason I think that is because we've had our consolidation period, and crypto is a time-compressed trading market. And most importantly, this news out of Washington, D.C. this past week from Trump and from Steve Mnuchin is fabulously bullish. Fabulously bullish. And I'll tell you why. I'm sharing my screen. Basically, Trump says he doesn't like Bitcoin, right? Its value is based on thin air. And then that it's illicit, right? And everyone's using it for dark market things. I highlighted this stat because I thought it was kind of interesting that, people are doing studies that less than 0.5% of Bitcoin transactions are illicit activities, which is still bad, but it's not the billions of dollars that Mnuchin and Trump are talking about. So surprisingly, they're talking, shooting from the hip, so uncharacteristic of them. But I do think the fabulous news is that they didn't say the dollar is the only currency in the United States. They never said Bitcoin doesn't belong here. They said, instead, we're going to regulate Bitcoin to make sure that it doesn't have illicit activities happening with it. That's fabulous. We need that to happen. We want that to happen. But most importantly, the leadership of the Republican Party just came out and said, we're going to regulate Bitcoin. That's what we want. We want it to be regulated, but they didn't say anything about whether or not it should be allowed in this country, as the dollar is the only currency allowed in this country. No statements like that. I think they just cleared the way for $50,000 on Bitcoin.
And I will say this is whenever there's, I've seen it before, I don't have it in front of me, but there's actually charts that you can see kind of like the Trump effect on certain stocks and companies. Like when he makes a comment, this and that, when he kind of tries to go against it. And for some reason, or not for some reason, but like whenever he goes against a company, the company tends to perform well, and I remember this when the Nike thing came about. I was like, I was like, this seems like this is like a ripe opportunity. Right, he was going and bashing Nike, and then I pulled up all these charts, which was whenever he goes after someone, usually it's like there's a backlash from people who think he's an idiot, who disagree, who decide to kind of fight back with their money or whatever. And this is clearly an area that he doesn't understand. So I'm almost happier that he says that, no, I don't like it, it's not worth anything, rather than it's amazing, it's great. You know what I'm saying? Like, it kind of like, okay, cool. Like that makes me feel better in that sense of it. But
yes, and I'll share one more screen to your point there. Kevin, the guy who's the minority leader of the House, as soon as Trump comments about Bitcoin not being based on anything, he came out that he disagrees. And, he's more of a libertarian. Libertarians love crypto. So like the top ranking congressman on the Republican Party in the House likes Bitcoin and thinks that, we have to foster this innovation. It's really good. Washington is all green lights, and Washington was my biggest, fear. And I think it's a lot of institutional investors' biggest fear that we're going to have some type of a rule making cryptocurrency no longer the asset class that it is quickly becoming. And that did not materialize. And now we go on vacation and everything gets cemented in. So I think that we are incredibly opportunistic time to add to position.
Yeah, I tend to agree. The only word of caution I would throw out there is to keep an eye on developments with the FTC and their the investigation, the formal investigation that they've officially launched now into antitrust on Facebook. And I know that it's not a complete correlation with Bitcoin and with cryptocurrency over in general, but it does have an effect now that Facebook has been going to be moving forward with Libra, and they don't need any congressional action to have any executive action come out here in August. I don't think that we're going to get much information from the FTC's investigation because it is so early, but I would keep an eye and just be cautious on some of the rumor intelligence that might trickle out either on purpose or not on purpose while Congress is on break here from the FTC and the Treasury Department. But I tend to agree that this is all a great sign for crypto moving forward. And that's a great point, John. No one ever mentioned that cryptocurrency is invalid. No one ever mentioned that it was going to be banned. The only thing that we heard from the administration was we're going to be looking at it harder and clamping down and putting for additional regulations on it, which, regardless of your political flavor, if you just take those statements as they are, that's exactly what we want to hear.
100%. And, to more good news about Facebook, we need a big company to navigate big government and regulations, and the banks have no incentive to do it. And they're the biggest companies in this country. The next biggest category of companies are the technology companies. And so Facebook, the biggest of all, is going to navigate all of this political challenges for crypto. Fabulous. Love it.